Tonight we have our Q&A with Father Josh, but first we have our pre-talk. Unfortunately, our pre-talk speaker had to cancel, so you're stuck with me for like 10 or 15 minutes, but hopefully I'll speed through it. I was asked to do the pre-talk about 24 hours ago, so I was trying to think of what to say, what to share. I didn't know. I'm not good at interpreting the Desert Fathers. I'm not good at the Bible talk. I'm not good at any of that. So I just wanted to think of something that happened to me personally that might resonate with others. I don't know. So hopefully this resonates, but if it doesn't, I'm sorry. For those of you who don't know, I started a new job at the end of August. It's 24th of August I started. And I really like it. It's a great job. And as part of like the induction or whatever, I was introduced to, I had like an office tour. So I'm an account manager for a biscuit company. So yeah, it's cool. So we own like 4 warehouses and production happens here and the bakery's over there and the offices are upstairs, blah, blah, blah. And you're given the tour and it's boring, blah, blah, blah. And cool, fantastic. And the office manager introduces me to all of my colleagues who are there on the day. And these are the people who work upstairs, this is marketing, this is operations, and these are the people who work in the warehouse. So we bake on site, we produce and package all of our biscuits in the tubs and in the boxes on site, and we work with the couriers. And I meet this lady who is probably, I don't want to offend her, but most likely in her late 50s or early 60s. She's Greek. She's a classic old Greek lady. Her name is Katerina. And she would kill me if I didn't say her name any other way, because she's like, I don't like it when young people say Katerina, because it's not how you say it, it's Katerina. I say Katerina, so you say Katerina, right? So I was like, all right, so you always say Katerina. Anyway. So I meet this woman and she was like, I'm not going to try to do her accent because I'll butcher it, but she was like, Mark, you look Lebanese. And I said, I'm not Lebanese. She goes, where do you come from? I said, I'm Egyptian. She goes, oh, my mother's Egyptian. And I was like, cool, fantastic. And she just started throwing these Arabic words at me. Like, they didn't string into a sentence. They weren't about anything. She was like, oh, ahlan, talaga, kinisa. Like, she was just rattling all of these random Arabic words at me. And I was like, yeah, like, fantastic, well done, you know. Like, I don't know how to help you further than that, right? And that was that, you know. And then the next day, my operations manager comes up to me and she says, we're trying this new thing where anyone who joins our company in whatever position they start in, we want them just to get a feel of the other positions. So like spend half an hour with production, spend half an hour with marketing, whatever. So that when you talk to your customers, you have an understanding of what you're talking about. So when you say to them, we can package this box and send it out to you this day with this label, you know what you're talking about. And she was like, you're the first person we're going to try it with. We feel like it's going to be successful, blah, blah, blah. So you get a better idea of your job. Cool. So spend time with a few people, and she says to me, I want you to spend half an hour with the production downstairs, with Katerina, right? So we're working, and she's showing me certain things, blah, blah, and I'm just wearing a shirt. And those of you who know me, you'll know that I have a tattoo of a cross on my right arm. And she says, you're Christian? I said, yeah. She goes, are you Catholic or are you Coptic? I said, I'm Coptic. And she goes, oh, my mum was Coptic. And I was like, okay, like, great. Can I meet her? Or like, you know, I don't know. I don't know. And she said to me that her dad was Catholic, so they grew up Catholic, Greek Catholic. But she goes to me, when I was very, very young, she would take me to church. And it was the only church that I would go to that would give us the Urban. That's how she would say it. It was so like childlike and innocent. She'd be like, Urban, you know? I said, yeah, yeah. She goes, do they still do that? And I said, yeah. She goes, can you get me some? I had it maybe when I was 9 or 10 years old, and it made me so, so happy. I would love to have it again. And I said, yeah. And she said, when's the next time you're going to go to church? And I was like Sunday. This was like a Tuesday or something. And she goes, all right, get me some urban. Right? And I was like, okay, no worries. But then, unfortunately, those of you who know me will know that I have a terrible short-term memory, right? So I forgot. And time goes by, and I get busy with work. I end my training, and I'm actually doing my job, and I'm getting accounts, and I'm getting clients, and I'm getting this and that, and all of a sudden we're edging into September. We're going to start prepping for Christmas. Christmas orders and hampers and wine. And so not only am I trying to get better at my job, I'm trying to learn all of these new Christmas products and price points and different clients and all the rest of it. So I just get distracted with my job. And then 2 weeks ago, a week ago, beginning of last week, something tells me, like, I used to go to public confession time. I used to go to Thursday morning liturgies, like before I was married, quite often. And then I just got lazy, right? Get married, you eat more, you sleep more, you do less, right? Especially at first. And I just got lazy and I stopped going. I just got comfortable. And then COVID hit, and I used that as an excuse. Churches aren't open, Abuna, I can't make it, blah, blah, blah. And then last Monday or last Tuesday, I hear this voice in the back of my mind that says to me, you haven't been to church in a while, like on Thursday mornings. And I just ignore it, because I'm like, going to church now involves me getting up at like 4 or 4:15. No, ditch. Right? Abuna will forgive me, whatever. So it gets to like Wednesday, and I'm driving home from work, and I hear this voice again. Get up tomorrow morning, get off your lazy butt, and go to church. And I was like, all right. So I got home, I say to my wife, I say to Talina, I need to go to bed early tonight because I want to go to church tomorrow morning. She was like, why? Like, not why as in why do you want to go to church, but why, like, you haven't mentioned it, you haven't been in ages, right? And I was like, I don't know, I just feel like I should go. It's been a long time, I don't know. She goes, okay. So I painfully set that alarm for 4:15. Next morning rolls around, and you know when you forget what happened the night before, and you wake up, and I'm like waking up, opening my eyes, and it's still dark outside, and my phone's shouting at me, and I'm like, oh, snooze, like ditch. Right? 10 minutes later, it rings again. It's like 4:35. And I'm like, I should probably get up. Right? Get up, go to church, have a great time, blah, blah, blah. It's just a normal Thursday morning. I'm tired. I'm almost regretful that I got out of bed, but also kind of like, all right, like, I did it. I ticked a box, whatever. Then at the end, so those of you who go Thursday mornings, it depends on your luck. It depends on how many people are there. It depends on how much Urban is made. You can either get a whole one to yourself, or Abuna might give you half, usually. This particular Thursday, Abuna comes to me and he gives me, call it just less than 2/3. And I'm like, cool. Like, I don't need any more, but all right, I'll take it. I won't say no to Urban, right? Then it ends at 7 o'clock. I get in the car, on my way to work. I work in Chipping Norton, which is in Liverpool. So from here, it took me about an hour, or just less than an hour. I'm about halfway through my trip, and for some reason, I haven't touched the Urban yet, right? And then I like question myself, like, you always eat it straight away, you know, and you eat the whole thing, like, what's going on? So I take a little bit and I eat it. As soon as the Urban hits my lips, I'm like, Katarina, Orban! You know, it all starts coming back to me, right? And I look down, there's still half left, half clean. And I was like, all right, I put it like under my bag so that I'm not tempted. I don't, you know, I'm driving and I sneak a bit of Orban. No, keep it hidden. And I get to work, and I get to work at about 8:15, 8:20. And I'm parking and I see Katerina standing with a few others of our colleagues, like the office manager and a few people from the warehouse. So I park and I get the Orban and I'm kind of excited to give it to her, right? Even though it's like 6 weeks late, I'm excited to finally fulfill my promise. And I'm like walking up to the group and I see Katerina like crying, but she's not crying out of like normal sadness or whatever. She's crying out of like frustration. You know, when you see someone, they're just like, they can't decide on what to say and what to do, and they want to rip their clothes off, and they're just really frustrated and angry. I'm not the type to get involved with people's business if they don't want to tell me what's going on, so I was walking towards her, saw her crying, I did a U-turn, and I walked back upstairs to my office. I was like, nah, not going to touch it, right? It got to like mid-morning, and I'm like, usually they go have a coffee around 10:30, 11, so I'll go see if she's downstairs and she's free. So I go downstairs, and like, there are those big plastic, like those big vinyl plastic, like, you see it like a butcher, you know, there's things that you walk through. Anyway, I don't know how to describe them. But I walk through, you can't really see through them, you have to walk through, so I walk through them and I see Katerina, and I say to her, hi, good morning. And she looks at me and she goes, hi, good morning, Mark. You know, and she's like visibly annoyed. She doesn't want to be there. And I said to her, I've got a present for you. And her face does a 180. She's like, oh, the Orban, right? And I'm like, yes, I'm so sorry, it's like almost 2 months late. And she was like, it's okay, it's okay. So I give it to her, and she starts, and she doesn't cry, but she gets a bit emotional, and she goes, thank you. I needed this today. And I was like, no worries. You know, okay. So then, whatever, I go back up to my office, and just by virtue of conversation, the office manager is a bit of a gossip, right? So she calls me, she's like, did you see Katerina this morning? And I was like, yeah, I gave her something. And she was like, oh, was she okay? Like, she was crying this morning, was she okay now? Because I was talking to her. And I was like, she seemed to be a bit better, whatever. She was like, oh, because she's going through a very nasty divorce with her husband. Not only that, but she has 2 kids, 2 boys. And she told me like they're around early 30s and mid 20s. So all of a sudden they're mirroring my brother and I. And she says to me, the oldest one was a bank manager or something. And he went into, like, her details weren't amazing, but something to do with the surgery that he was going to go into, like a routine surgery, something happened. They pinched something in the back, and he can't feel his legs. And the doctors don't know if he's going to use his legs again. And they keep giving her updates, but the updates are the same. We don't know. Doing tests, we're trying to do physio, we're trying to do whatever. So I just wanted to share this because, like, I'm not giving myself an excuse for forgetting, but it seemed like all of a sudden all the pieces were falling where they should be falling. And God's timing really manifested. And it's something that I experienced personally, or almost personally, that really affected me, you know? And you really don't know what someone's going through. Usually she's this lively, wisecracking Greek lady, but that particular day she was beside herself. And it just seemed like this bit of Orban that sometimes I take for granted just lit up her life, you know? So I think I just learned myself that a random act of kindness just goes a long way. So that's what I had. I hope I didn't go over time. Now we have, if everyone is ready, Q&A. Do you want me to get you a flower? It's okay.
How did you enjoy the story about Catalina? Yes? It's funny, but sometimes we underestimate what and how. I don't like this microphone. Sometimes we really underestimate what and how God can use each of us in our lives. The story of Catalina, if you open your eyes, you find that it happens a lot, and I mean a lot. Something very similar, before we start the quick Q&A, name of the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, one God, Amen. Last Saturday, I wanted to buy something from the Apple shop. I had John Paul and Anthony with me after the Mass, so we went to Castle Towers. Went to the Apple shop, and knowing me, I just walked straight to want to walk straight in. I thought everybody that's waiting, they're waiting for their appointments. I want to buy, I'm not there to repair anything. Lady looks at me and goes, where are you going? I said, going, I want to buy something. She goes, join the queue. I looked at the queue, not realizing that they've just launched the Apple 12. There's a queue. I looked at her and said to her, Apple's not worth that much for me to stand in that queue. So we came to turn back, and then Anthony goes, why don't we go to JB Hi-Fi? I said to him, I like to buy Apple from Apple, so it goes straight onto the iTunes account. I don't have to keep a receipt, I don't have to stress or worry about it. Anthony goes, you never know. We walk down to JB Hi-Fi. As we walk in, normally JB Hi-Fi and Castle, you walk in and people run away from you. They don't want to help you. All of a sudden, as soon as I walk in, someone, how can I help you? It's like, this is Saturday, this is unbelievable. I want this, okay, go to the back. So I start walking to the back, another guy comes and nearly knocks me out over the way while I'm walking. Can I help you? I'm looking for this, okay, next section in the back. I'll go to the next section in the back, straight away, a third person. It's never happened. What do you want? I want this, yes, we have it, I'll go get it for you. He goes, he gets it, and he comes. And me and Anthony and John Paul, you all know John Paul, trying to break something in the shop. And then the guy wants to distract me and take me away from these two. So he goes to me, do you need this? I said, what's this? And he takes me to the corner of the shop. And I go to the corner of the shop and I spend 40 minutes in the corner of the shop. Because he's Greek as well, Greek Orthodox, but he goes to Hillsong and he's in a relationship with a Muslim person. And the story was just unbelievable. Unbelievable. And the questions. And it's like, after I bought it, and by the way, I ended up getting staff discount. So what I bought was like $150 cheaper. So God didn't just use me, He paid me for my time as well. But Taban, Anthony and John Paul are standing there and they could see the conversation. They were dying to find out what it was all about. But I just felt, oh my God, God does use you. And you have no idea how He's using you. Now to the question and answers. Some beautiful questions that came in. There's 7 of them. There's one new one which I just saw, and I'll ask Michael to keep an eye if there's more questions that come while we're talking. There's one question specific that I kept all the way to the end that really nearly made me cry when I read it. But I have reworded it, and we'll read it. And so that you don't get sick of my voice, I did something different today. So you'll get to hear some of my voice, and you'll get to see a couple of videos. Where's the other one? Until they get me the other one. So there's a couple of videos that we can kind of make it a little bit more interesting because I really like them. The first question is, was, what is sin? Now, obviously, a lot of you, especially the younger ones, you go to Catholic schools. And in Catholic schools or the Catholic Church, they have what they call a mortal sin and what's the other word? Sin? Huh? Not carnal. What is it? Venal sin. So they have sins basically that lead to death and sins that don't lead to death. That's the second word. We don't believe in that. So in the Orthodox Church, our faith in sin is different. And the way I always like to describe it is, imagine, Keda, you all came here with a car, yes? You all got in a car to come here, yes? What's the job? The car was created by the person that created it to do a single job, correct? What was that job? For people to be able to get in it and to be able to use it from one place to another. Imagine if one day the car all of a sudden decides that it no longer wants to be a car. It's just not going to turn on, it's not going to carry people. It's not going to perform the function it was created or was made to perform. What do you think the makers of the car will do to that car? What do you think? If a car becomes unable to carry people, unable to be driven around, what happens to it? It's recycled. Yeah? They will most likely cut it up and reuse the material to make a car that will fulfill its purpose. And this is what happened with humanity. Humanity was actually created to be in the presence of God. But to sin, it means that we miss the mark for which we were created. To miss the mark means that we actually disobey God. We created a division between us and God, a separation. That separation is called sin. But unlike the car scenario, God said, I still love man. I still love my creation. I still love humanity. I'm going to give humanity a chance to be one with me again. And therefore, it becomes humanity's aim to become Christ-like. Because He came, and out of His love, He saved us. And therefore, we try and live to the best of our ability, like Christ, fulfilling the purpose for which we were created. That means is we live in the line of the teachings, of the precepts, of the commandments that Christ has given us. When we miss these things, and when we mess them up, we become we experience sin. To the extent that St. John Chrysostom has a beautiful homily on sin. And he says, is there a difference between a person that steals silver or a person that steals gold? There's no difference. Both of them are thieves. The one that stole silver steals the silver because he didn't have gold that he could or who would be able to steal. And therefore, sin is missing that mark. It is actually the inclination, the evil inclination within me that makes me disobey God. But I've got a beautiful video here that I hope you guys enjoy.
What is sin exactly? The simplest answer is that sin is disobedience to God. Sin can be thought of as committing a spiritual crime. Most of us do not think of ourselves as criminals. We tend to think of crime in terms of murder, theft, arson, drunk driving, and so on. However, even those of us who have not committed any of these crimes are still spiritual criminals, even if our worst offense is telling a lie. The Bible says that all people sin. Often we deceive ourselves into thinking that we are good people because we don't commit the worst kinds of sins. If we compare ourselves to each other, this might be a valid conclusion. In reality, it does no good to compare ourselves to one another because this is not the yardstick that God measures by. He does not grade on the curve. The prophet Isaiah said, "All of us have become like one who is unclean, and all our righteous acts are like filthy rags." In the sight of God, even our good deeds are like something filthy because they are mingled with all the sins we have committed. Tragically, the whole world is full of sin. What makes something a sin? The Bible teaches that the basic concept of sin is the idea of missing the target. What target is it that God expects us to hit? To answer this, let's consider a question that was asked of Jesus. "Teacher, which is the greatest commandment in the law?" Jesus replied, "Love the Lord your God with all your heart, and with all your soul, and with all your mind. This is the first and greatest commandment, and the second is like it. Love your neighbor as yourself. All the law and the prophets hang on these two commandments." Jesus said the greatest commandment is that we are to love God. The second is similar to it. We are to love one another. This is the target that God wants us to aim for. All of the commandments God has given us are based on love. God teaches us that if we love someone, we should always be trying to do what is in their best interest, no matter who they are. We show our love by obeying all that He has taught us. If we instinctively knew how to love each other, God would not have needed to give us instructions. His commands, if obeyed, result in showing love to Him, ourselves, and to everyone else. His commands aren't meant to keep us from having fun, but rather they serve to teach and protect us. Obeying God is in our own best interest because the commands He has given are for our own good and the good of others. We show our love by obeying all that He has taught us. To disobey is to sin. God's commandments are actually instructions which teach us how to be like Him. The more we become like Him, the more we put the well-being of others first. The more we do this, the less hurtful things we do to ourselves and others. Got it?
So really, when we come to answer the question of sin, to sin or not to sin is really a choice. And one of the church fathers says, a man, this is us, in this world, we must solve a problem. And that problem is to be Christ or to be against Him. To be with Christ means that we actually love God and love our neighbors as ourselves. Is to actually fulfill His commandments, or to be against Him, to be the same as everyone else. And every man decides this, whether he wants to or not. He will either be Christ or a fighter of Christ. There is no third option. A lover of Christ is a man who is free of sin. A enemy of Christ or a fighter of Christ is a man who lives in sin. And there is no third option. Don't ever fool yourself to think you can live as anything in between or different to these two options. Second question, one of my favorite questions, a question that I get asked all the time. And I have a feeling the person that asked this question is actually not here today. Does the church consider drinking alcohol a sin? And I put it after the first one, is that so you guys can really, now that you understood the term sin, is drinking alcohol a sin, especially in regards to it being consumed in moderation and in a controlled environment? What do you think? I have the answer there. The Coptic Church strongly recommends that alcohol not be a part of our lives, apart from Holy Communion, of course. But I'm going to look at both sides. Hey? You have a question? Ask. Strongly recommends. What do you think that means? Let's see. I've got both sides of the argument, and Basim is going to be the judge, okay? We're all going to pick on Basim tonight, okay? Okay, so those that criticize the church, you thought I was going to give you an answer straight away of yes or no. Sah? No. Okay, those that like this policy say to us, the Bible never actually condemned drinking alcohol. The Bible only condemns drunkenness. And by the way, that's true. The Bible condemns getting drunk. There is nothing in the Bible that says you're not allowed to drink alcohol. The alcohol that is mentioned that we're not allowed to drink is the alcohol that causes drunkenness. The other argument, Jesus himself, Abuna, did you not read that miracle? He converted water into wine. How could you tell me not to drink wine when Christ himself made his first ever miracle as Christ, as the incarnate Son of God, was to turn water into wine? Most other churches, Abuna, allow social drinking of alcohol. You know what? Even their clergy, even their Abuna drinks. Sah. The Coptic Church bans alcohol only because it exists or existed within a Muslim society where alcohol was banned by Islam. Finally, alcohol is not evil in itself. What counts is how you use it. People are responsible enough to use it wisely, so there is no need for it to be banned. Have I missed anything? Yes? So how many people think that alcohol is good for you, or we should drink alcohol? Yeah? Only one person? Kollida? Only one person? Hi? Someone's criticizing the actual sentence, using the word good. Yes, very true. All right. Okay, arguments, the other side. The problem with alcohol is, the first and foremost, is alcohol is actually responsible for a tremendous amount of disease and death in our society. When you look at alcohol as a substance, it actually causes a lot of diseases and is a high cause of death. It's fact. It's not something that I'm making up. Any of you that wants to look up the ABS, you can put that deaths due to alcohol and you'll see the alarming numbers. Alcohol is also a drug. As a matter of fact, I remember once attending a talk by Abuna Antonius, because he was a doctor. And he said, if alcohol was introduced today for the first time, there is no way that the Therapeutic Goods Administration, the people that allow drugs into the market and disallow them, there's no way they would approve it, let alone sell it in a liquor store. Why? Because it is a poison. So therefore, if it was discovered today, it would never be allowed to be sold. Not even as prescription. So not even for the doctor to prescribe. Why? Because it's incredibly toxic and has side effects. And it's far more harmful than any other drugs that have been taken off or have been disallowed. And I think we've got a doctor here that can tell us, and I'm hoping agree with what I'm saying. And the third, and probably the most problematic, is that 10% of people, research has shown, the question says, what's wrong with drinking it socially without getting drunk? 10%, 1 in 10 people will go on to become alcoholic. 1 in 10 people. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Sarah's an alcoholic. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Marianne is an alcoholic. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I'm an alcoholic. Yeah? So within here, we've just ended up with how many was it? 3 or 4 people? 4 people. If we all social drink, statistics says there's going to be 4 of us from within this group that will become an alcoholic, will become addicted. And this is across all social classes, across both genders, males and females. So you can't say to yourself, I'm a male, I can handle alcohol better than females. You are all at risk of becoming addicted to that substance if you allow yourself to drink it socially. Now that you hear this side of the story, what do you think? Should we be drinking alcohol or should we not? Nick, what do you think? You don't know? You're thinking what? Did you have alcohol on the way here or la haga? And therefore, the reason the church this allows us is actually to save us. Alcohol, whilst St. Paul has a very, very beautiful verse. He says, all things are lawful for me. Everything. Is alcohol lawful? It is lawful. There's nothing about the alcohol that is unlawful. But he says, but not all things edify. What does edify mean? It means these things, whilst they may be lawful, they're not going to help me enter the kingdom of heaven. And if they're not going to help me enter the kingdom of heaven, I am better without them. Especially that your body is actually, and your health is a gift from God. This body of yours is a temple that God has entrusted you with. And on that basis, on it being a temple, and on it being something that you have been entrusted with, is why the church says, or highly or strongly recommends, as Bassam pointed out, that we actually abstain from alcohol. Never touch it and never actually partake of it. Looks like Jacob and Isaac are not happy with the answer. You're not happy. What's the argument? Share with us the argument. Ask the question. There's nothing wrong with drinking alcohol. I didn't say, again, alcohol can be used as a medicine for certain diseases, for certain reasons. Some of, the part of the argument here about some of the other churches drinking alcohol, there are areas and there are countries where alcohol is used as a heater. They drink the alcohol to warm themselves, to keep themselves warm, rather than to actually consume the alcohol to get drunk. And that is very, very common in Russia and in some of those Slavic countries that experience extreme weather in terms of coldness. But it doesn't make it good for you. I don't think we have a weather problem here in Australia, and therefore we don't need the alcohol, and therefore this is why the church strongly recommends that we don't partake from it, because 1 in 10 people will get addicted, and that person that gets addicted will suffer. And addiction does cause a lot of problems. So the recommendation is, it does not edify. In the case of St. Paul, it edified, because he had some sort of a disease and he used the alcohol as a medicine, not as a social drink. There's a difference between using it for its medicinal or for its benefits. In the Old Testament, if you look up the Old Testament, there is a verse where it says that when someone mourns the death of someone, they can drink alcohol to overcome the mourning, 1 and 2 and 3 days, but after that to stop. And by the way, the alcohol in the Old Testament, there's 3 different words that are used to describe wine. But in English, they're all translated to wine. So there is the wine that is not toxicating, which is what Christ changed the water into. It's actually grape juice, because that was used, what was called wine. And why was that so expensive is because they had to actually squeeze it that same day. They used to have to bring people, they used to have to bring the grapes, and someone would stand all day squeezing the juice out of that grape, and you would drink it that same exact date. That's why it was very expensive. And you could tell because it didn't have alcohol in it and it was still sweet. Because what happens in the wine is the grape juice, the sugar that's in it, Jonathan, because you probably missed half what I was saying, is actually what converts into alcohol as it ferments. So the longer the grape juice is stored in the drums, the more sugar will convert to alcohol, the more sour the wine become, and the more alcoholic it will become. And in the case at the time of Christ, the cheaper it becomes. Why? Because it's aged. It's been stored. And what happened in the wedding of Cana of Galilee is Christ, the wedding master, the first lot of wine they were giving was that sour wine. And that's why when they gave out the good wine after the sour wine, the master of ceremony was a bit perplexed. He said, people usually give out the sweet wine first. Your mouth gets used to the sweetness, so when you drink the sour wine, you can't tell that you've been given cheap wine. But there's no one that gives the cheap wine, which is sour, and then supplies the sweet wine to say, I have given you cheap wine and now I'm giving you expensive wine. Which means that the two wines at that wedding were two different wines. And if you go back to the original language, you'll find that two different words were being used. And in the Old Testament, the toxicating wine, which in Arabic, especially when you see it translated, it says muskir, toxicating wine. That's what is prohibited. And most of the alcoholic drinks that you guys drink today, as social drinking, they're toxicating because the amount of alcohol that is in them is quite high. And like I said to you before, if they were, and if any of these companies tried to list them as a medicine, the government would actually disallow them because a lot of these drinks do not comply with the safety that is required for medicines. However, they are sold in liquor stores. Hard question. I hope, alcohol? Yes. Why does? That's the closest we can find. So this is why the church goes out to get the abarca, so the actual sacramental wine is the lowest alcohol concentration of all the wines. And therefore you find it sweet. So the King David especially, that all of us go searching for in Costco and we try and import, is the lowest concentration alcohol in the actual sacramental wine. So if you look, there's a lot of other sacramental wines that are much higher concentration, we don't use them. Yeah. And in Egypt, if you go to Marimina monastery, they make the abarca there, and it is even lower concentration of alcohol because it's made in the actual monastery. Yes? Is it bad? It's just a drink. No? We strongly recommend that you don't drink. Full stop. Unless sometimes the doctor will actually ask you. It's a bit like, my doctor, for example, asked me to increase my salt intake. Most doctors say to people, salt is not good for you. Why? Because it increases your blood pressure. In my case, I've got low blood pressure. So what did the doctor say to me? In your case, it's actually good to have more salt. So there might be cases where the doctor, like St. Paul and the example that Jacob gave us, they needed the alcohol, so they gave him the alcohol. It must have done something. God, yeah. There'll be a reason that sometimes you can have it. Yeah. But strongly do not drink. But if it's not from the church, it's just another drink. Yeah. It does taste quite nice, the King David. I know. Yes. Sacramental wine, you can't drink full stop, is what I'm trying to say. We should not be drinking. However, sacramental wine is another drink. So the only thing that we don't drink in the church is because when it's offered to the church, it's no longer wine, it's an offertory. What that means is something that belongs to God, it's been given to God. So to take it out of the church and drink from it now, that would be a crime. That's not allowed, because that's something that's been presented, consecrated. A bit like the utensils, that we use. You can't use it for any other reason. It's been consecrated. It is for God. Yes? Same as the bukhur. No one takes the bukhur and uses it at home. If it's been given to the church, this is the church. It's an offertory. You can go buy the bukhur from outside, from the maktaba. They have some bukhur that you can take and use at home. There's nothing wrong with that. But there is everything wrong in taking the one that's from the altar. Does that give you a better explanation? Yeah, or a better description, so that we get away from the alcohol? Khalas, kullu za'lan. Your faces are so upset about the alcohol. Oh my God. Okay, this is a more hopefully happier question, although it's not very happy. How can I get out of the comparison trap? Again, I've got another video for you.
I was cycling the other day, noticed the person I could tell he was cycling a little slower than me and decided to try and catch him. I had about 1 kilometer to go before turning left for my destination. So I started cycling faster and faster, and every block I was gaining on him just a little bit. After a few minutes, I was only about 100 meters behind him, so I really picked up the pace and pushed myself. You would have thought I was cycling the final stretch of Tour de France. Finally, I caught up with him and passed him by. On the inside, I felt so good. I beat him, of course, but he didn't even know we were racing. After I passed him, I realized that I had been so focused on competing that I had missed my turn. I had gone nearly 5 blocks past it and had to turn around and go all the way back. Isn't that what happens in life when we focus on competing with co-workers, neighbors, friends, family, trying to outdo them or trying to prove that we're more successful or more important? We spend our time and energy running after them, and we miss our own paths. Imagine you set a ladder on a wall and you spend energy, resources, and most importantly time to climb up that ladder. So what happens when you compare yourself to others is that once you finally climb the wall, you realize that it was the wrong wall after all. As a result, you're not as happy as you thought you'd be, and now you have to find more time and energy to switch the ladder to the correct wall and start your own journey. Another thing is that comparing never stops. If you compare yourself, for example, financially, there would always be someone richer than you. Even if you're the 10th richest person alive, there would still be 9 more people that are richer, and you'll never feel happy. It's a battle that you'll probably never win. But don't get me wrong, not all competition is bad. Not at all. Next time you want to compete, do it. But do it with yourself. This is the way to go. Competition can drive you forward and help you grow when you can use it in your advantage. If today you were able to score 1 goal, record 1 video, lift X amount of weights, you should challenge yourself. When you wake up tomorrow, try to surpass today's achievements. If you made $100 today or wrote 1,000 lines of code, make sure you beat yourself tomorrow. I will make more money, make more calls, I will write more code, do more reps, work more hours than I did yesterday. This should be your mindset. After all, you can never go wrong in this competition, because what you compete against are your visions and goals, and not what other people do and think is valuable. So be smart, stop comparing yourself to others, but always compete with yourself.
If you turn to Philippians Chapter 4, verses 6 to 8, you find that what you just saw in that video, St. Paul actually presents to us in a different way. And he says to us, and by the way, this verse also answers a couple of other questions that have come in since. For example, the fear of the unknown. How do I get over wanting to know? And the stress of waiting for an answer to a problem. How do I wait without me worrying constantly? He says, be anxious for nothing. In everything, prayer, supplication with thanksgiving. If you want to overcome the issue of comparing yourself with others, the issue of living in fear, the issue of wanting to always find out answers, especially for difficult decisions in your life, you need to do 3 things. Prayer, supplication, thanksgiving before God. He says here, let your request be made known to God, and the peace of God, which surpasses all understanding, will guide your heart and mind through Christ. The one thing that we always talk a lot about but really don't do, Abuna Sam was saying last week, we sometimes underestimate the power of God and the power of prayer. Not realizing that in prayer itself, there's a change in me. I sometimes just pray to fulfill a duty, not realizing that that prayer itself is important for me. The fact that I stand and pray changes me. That actual prayer is a medicine for me. Pray, supplicate, and thanks. Give thanks to God. Gratitude. They're the three things that will transform you. They will give you. They will guard your heart. They will guide your mind. And they will also give you that peace of God that surpasses all understanding. I found myself not living in fear, not worried, not always upset about the things that others have. And the more I focus on others, like the cycling, you all know how much I love cycling. You end up missing your turn. You end up missing becoming who you need to become. Each of you is special in your own ways. You can't be somewhere else. Sarah is not going to become Clara because she was not meant to be Clara, nor was she meant to be Martina. Finally, brethren, whatever things are true, whatever things are noble, whatever things are just, whatever things are pure, whatever things are lovely, whatever things are of good report, if there is any virtue and if there's anything praiseworthy, meditate on these things. This is looking at everything that God permits for your life as a good gift from God. And therefore, this daily practice of thanksgiving will allow you to be able to overcome that disease of comparison, which all it does is it steals your joy. The more you compare, the more you'll find yourself lacking joy. Today I Googled, just Google, how do you overcome comparison? And the funny part is, when you look at what the word says, the world says, if you go back, get a few slides, you find it's exactly what St. Paul was saying to us. The first thing it says to water your own grass. You know what that means? I actually learned this practically. I remember when I first had my grass laid about 12 or 13 years ago at my house. Every time I would stand outside and look, and I'd see the grass of my neighbor greener than mine. And I'd go and I'd buy all these fertilizers and this watering system, and I'd look and his grass is greener. Only the day, I think it was a couple of days before we were moving out, we lived in that house for 10, 11 years. And my neighbor comes to me one day, he goes, "You're moving out. I just want to know, how do you get your grass to always be so much greener than mine?" Between me and myself, I said, "Oh my God, I've always thought his grass was greener than mine." Yeah? So what you need to do is you need to work on your own life. Stop looking at other people's lives. Accept where you are. You're not going to be what everybody else is. The biggest problem with the man that had the talents is he was very upset that he got 1 and others got 5 and 10. So he buried it. And then what happened to him? He was cast out. Love your past. A lot of the time, I'm very unhappy about my past. Your past is what made you, and it is a journey on which you will go to your future. Do less social media, and this is one thing I agree with. You know, if you are having a problem with comparison, delete your Instagram, delete your Facebook. Because a lot of the stuff that's in your Instagram and in your Facebook is actually not true. It makes you live in a mirage, in something that's untrue. It makes you become something that's actually not real. I don't know who it was that was Moheb. When Moheb gave us the talk on addiction, he used a girl that had something like 30,000 followers. Did you see the post that he had? Yes? She was in rehab being treated for having tried to attempt suicide. She sneaked out of the hospital, sat on a sports car, took a photo and posted it on her Instagram. All her followers want to be like her, not realizing that this girl is suffering from depression. She wanted to suicide. The problem with social media, no one shares their failures on social media. Do you actually see anyone? I failed today in my exam on social media. You don't see it. I feel like I have no hope. You don't see it. And most of the things that are shared, people see, and this is a better angle, and and then all these new filters that make your lips fatter and your eyes greener, and it's not true and it's not real. Honestly, we live in a world, if you reduce social media, it will help you overcome this comparison. And know that this is not the end of your movie. This is not the end of your life. You are a working in progress. And there's a video, I'm going to skip because there's a video I really want you guys to see at the end, which will answer a lot of these things. Be thankful. Be grateful for what you have. Stop looking at what everybody else has, because you don't know what kind of life they're living. Decide not to let fear guide your choices. Realize that you are not perfect and only compare yourself to yourself. And I think you got that from the first video. Yes? Does the devil know your thoughts? There is nothing in the Bible that says that Satan is like God in his ability to read our thoughts. What we do know is that he is very capable at predicting human behavior. Why? Because he's been around for thousands and thousands and thousands of years, and he has unbelievable experience with humanity. And it is through that experience that he is able to anticipate what I might do in given situations. It's not that he can read my thoughts. And therefore, he also can't implant thoughts in your head. The Bible actually teaches us that he was created and that he can tempt us, and the way he tempts us is through actual suggestions. And we see that in Matthew chapter 4, temptation on the mount. He appeared to Christ and he started making suggestions. However, what he does is he twists Scripture. He twists the words of God. He will twist it. A bit like someone was saying to me before, St. Paul gave alcohol to one of his disciples. That's a classic Satan twisting Scripture. Why? So that you can drink, and you can drink freely. Because there is a chance when you drink, you're going to get addicted. When you get addicted, you're going to become You're going to become in his he takes you over. So what is our defense against Satan? Is to actually put on that perfect righteousness of God. And you can read about the armor of God in Ephesians chapter 6 verses 10 to 15. It is our sinful nature that gives Satan advantage over us and makes us susceptible to his temptations and to his false teachings. Saint John the Beloved says to us, "Beloved, do not believe every spirit, but test the spirits to see whether they are from God. For many false prophets have gone out into the world. By this you know the Spirit of God. Every spirit that confesses that Jesus Christ has come in the flesh is from God, and every spirit that does not confess Jesus is not from God." Test what you hear. Test the thoughts that you have. And the way we test them in church is we put them against the teachings of the apostles, the teachings of the saints. This is why the church continues to read the Synaxarium over and over and over, because they are the ones that have led the way into heaven. And to be able to overcome any of these, your own thoughts, fill yourself with God. Fill your mind with God. For though we walk in the flesh, we do not war according to the flesh. For the weapons of our warfare are not carnal, but mighty in God for pulling down strongholds, casting down arguments and every that exalts itself against the knowledge of God, bringing every thought into the captivity to the obedience of Christ, and being ready to punish all disobedience when your obedience is fulfilled. What St. Paul is saying here is, make God your focus. Fill your head, fill your hearts with the Word of God, and you will overcome any evil thoughts that may exist or stem from you or from external influences around you, like your friends, like your social media, like your phones, like the internet, like all these new idols that we see around everywhere. They are all sources that Satan uses to put thoughts into your head. He doesn't physically get into your head. Does that answer that question? Yes? This is the question that really hurt my feelings today. Not hurt my feelings, I felt really bad for this person. I've been feeling a lot of anger. I've reworded this so that no one knows who it is. I've been feeling a lot of anger this year. I'm struggling to move on from my past as my life has completely changed this year. What are some practical methods you can advise that I can implement in my daily lifestyle as a young youth that would not only help me with my anger, but also help to improve my faith in God? And for this person, I have a video at the end, and I'm sorry, I know it's 10 minutes, and I'm going to go over a little bit, but it was all Mark's fault. He took too long right at the beginning, and he just walked outside and then walked back in. But before I put the video, I want to answer this question. I'm begging this person to come and talk to me. Please come, because life should never be like that. Why? The problem that anger does to us is it sometimes changes me on the inside, to the extent that I want you to know that there's something called the ladder of ascent by John of the Ladder. He's actually called St. John of the ladder of divine ascent. And he puts 31 steps. His book is a beautiful book. He talks about 31 steps that allow us to be able to reach heaven. And overcoming anger, by the way, is 2 or 3 steps from the top. I want you to understand how difficult anger is to overcome. It's right at the top of the ladder. But there's a beautiful story about St. Moses the Black that can help me try and incarnate how do I overcome anger. Of course, all of you know the story of St. Moses the Black. Yes, he was a very difficult sinner. He was a killer. He was a murderer. He was a thief. He was everything. And then he turned and he repented. And he went and lived in the monastery. And I'm sure all of you know the story, so I'm not going to tell you the full story. But towards when he started aging, towards when he was old in age, and he'd become an amazing monk in the monastery, the Pope, the Patriarch, chose him and came to the monastery that he was in to ordain him a priest. And the Pope was in the church, and they asked St. Moses the Black to come in. And as St. Moses the Black walked into the church, the Pope decided, I want to test this monk. Do you all know the rest of the story? So when he came to him, the Pope looked at him and he goes to him, how black are you? Do you realize that you are black and your blackness is not worthy of priesthood? St. Moses the Black turned around and walked out of the church. Some of the monks went and asked St. Moses the Black, did you get angry? And St. Moses, his answer is actually critical for us to try and understand how we can overcome anger. And his answer said, my heart was affected. My heart, the shocked my heart. But I did not allow my mind to contemplate on it. So the secret for him to overcome anger is that he didn't allow his mind to contemplate. Because if he was to start contemplating, he would have started, I never asked to be a priest. They called me and they told me that they are going to make me a priest. Why call me and ask me and bring me into the church and then abuse me the way I was abused? See the thoughts that can come? And therefore, our response to anger, there's always a stimulus. And that stimulus is a physical stimulus. Whether it be someone that does something to us or a circumstance that causes us grief, there's always a stimulus. The stimulus begins with a reaction in my heart. The reaction in my heart is followed by a reaction with my mind. And once my mind starts thinking, do you know where the next stop is? My actions. Words, deeds, punching, slamming the door, they're all physical actions. I found myself, I've become a slave to this anger. For what St. Moses the Black did is he only allowed it to affect the first because he didn't get a chance. It was a shock, but he didn't allow his mind to contemplate on it. And therefore, to be able to do that means that instead of thinking about it, the first thing I need to do is complain to God. Don't complain to anyone else. To overcome the anger when the stimulus stimulates you, turn it into a prayer. Turn the circumstance into a prayer. I could have never imagined Jacob doing this to me. Isaac doing this to me. Instead of making it a thought, lift up your heart. God, I love Jacob. Please forgive him. Secondly, pray for that person. Please forgive him. Because what that does, that turns your anger into empathy. Put yourself in that person's shoes. You know what? Jacob is going through HSC exams. He's stressed. It's probably not himself today because there's a lot of pressure on him. All of a sudden, my anger is turned into empathy for the person that has inflicted pain upon me or inflicted that stimulus that can lead me to anger. And finally, let God take your vengeance. Problem with anger is I always want vengeance. I always want to get even. Don't do that. That only destroys you. You become the victim. The person that did the stimulus is already elsewhere. He's already moved on with his life. But you become a prisoner of that incident. And you're continuously thinking about it. And you are suffering every day because of it. You want to really win. You want to be victorious. Say to yourself that for my own sake, I will stop thinking about it. Because that saves me. The other person's already moved on with his life. Put away from you all bitterness and wrath and anger and wrangling and slander, together with all malice, and be kind to one another, tender-hearted, forgiving one another, as God in Christ has forgiven you. This is the commandment, and this is what we need to try and get to. I'm sorry. I will skip the next slide. This video is 10 minutes, and I know we haven't got time, but I'd really like you all to watch it. Mahalish. Which they use. Mahalish. Forgive me.
Ephesians 2:10 says that we are God's workmanship, His masterpiece. I don't know about you, but when I get up in the morning and look in the mirror, I don't really see a masterpiece, you know? I mean, maybe a Picasso. It's like, but I want to be His masterpiece. I want to be everything He created me to be. And so I go to him in prayer and I say, Dear Heavenly Father, do whatever it takes. Mold me into the image of your Son. Make me your masterpiece. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Hi,
Whoa. Who are you?
I'm God. You said the prayer, so here I am.
You're not God.
No, I am. You said the prayer. That's how it works.
Okay. If you're God, then make it snow in here.
You know what? I really don't want to make it snow in here because it'd get kind of yucky.
Yeah, you're not God.
Why do you say that?
God wouldn't say yucky.
I do. It's a Greek word.
Oh. Okay. If you're God, what does Lamentations 15:9 say?
Lamentations is only 5 chapters. It's a very short book.
Oh. Why was it so short?
I was tired of lamenting.
Oh. Okay. If you're God, who's going to win the World Series this year?
I'm really not into playing games. Why are you so much into playing games?
You are God.
What gave it away?
You answered my question with a question.
I did? Yeah, I do that, don't I? I did it again. Step right up. Here we go.
Okay.
All right.
Hey, what are we doing?
I'm going to make it my original masterpiece. This is the process.
Oh, okay. Got it.
Yeah.
Wait. What are these about?
These are the tools I'm going to use to make you into my original masterpiece.
Okay. Hang on.
Yeah,
I thought you were a carpenter.
that's my son. Step right up. Here we go.
Okay. Oh, hey, God. How do you know what to chisel away and what to leave?
I take out everything in your life that doesn't belong there, kind of like dead weight.
Ooh, speaking of dead weight, could you chisel right here? It showed up when I was in my 20s and grew around and became back fat. I don't even know why you created that, but I can't get rid of it. I mean, I've tried everything. Like, I tried running, I tried lifting weights. My wife actually talked me into trying Pilates. That was awkward. But I can't get rid of it. So if you would just chisel around here, and then, you know what, if you chisel a line right here and maybe 8 lines right here, that would be awesome.
You're funny.
You made me that way.
I also made the platypus.
With the platypus.
All I'm saying is most of my children, when it comes to this process, they just want to talk, but they don't want to do the work. So do you want to talk or can I chisel? Talk, chisel.
No. I choose the chisel.
All right. Through my Holy Spirit, I'm going to bring up things in your life that I want you to work on. Like your anger. I created the emotion, but you use it in the wrong way. You compare yourself to others instead of me. You tell little white lies because you want to people please. You're lazy, but you try to fool everybody by looking really, really busy. You have a problem with lust?
Time out. I don't really have a problem with lust.
You don't have a problem with lust.
No, I can do it anytime I want. Hang on a second. I mean, I got to admit, I feel like you've been doing some great work, and I'm looking pretty good right now.
All right, when you look in the mirror, who do you see?
I see me.
Okay, then I need to keep chiseling away because ultimately you and other people need to see my son.
Okay, don't misunderstand me. It's just when I look more like Jesus, people get uncomfortable around me. I mean, even my church friends, and they're like, "Oh, you're holier than thou," you know. And I don't think I'm supposed to make people uncomfortable.
So what you're saying is you'd rather play God in certain areas of your life than for me to be God over your whole life.
That is not what I said.
That's what you meant.
Yes, it is. It's hard to talk to you. You know everything that I'm thinking. I'm just saying you've done some great work. Maybe we take a break, a sabbatical from each other, you know. I'll stay right here, and then,
That's just it. You never just stay right there. You're either moving toward me or away from me, but never you just stay. What you're doing is called control. Do you want to control things in your life, or can I chisel? Control, chisel, control,
No,
chisel.
chisel.
All right.
But can we chisel where I want?
That's called control.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
Now this right here, this secret sin that you keep running to whenever you're hurting, angry, lonely, tired, that you think you're fooling everybody, but it's making you a whitewashed tomb. Are you ready for me to chisel this out of your life?
Yeah.
See, it's a process. It's not a sprint, it's a marathon. It's your whole life. And you care so deeply about what other people think of you. It's rubbish. It's garbage. The greatest thing you're ever going to hear is at the end of your life when you hear me say, "Well done, good and faithful servant." That's what you keep your eye on. That's the prize, heavenward.
Oh, that hurts.
Oh, trust me, this hurts me more than it hurts you.
Right. Okay. I'm sorry. I don't think you understand this pain.
Pardon me?
You're asking me to sacrifice a lot, God.
Don't talk to me about sacrifice. I know all about sacrifice. I sent my son to die on the cross for pain, for sin, but I also did it for another reason, to give you freedom. Do you know what insanity is? Insanity is doing the same thing over and over and over again, expecting different results. And there are things that you've been doing for years, these empty wells that don't have anything to offer. You've been going to them, and it's insane. Allow me to chisel them out of your life. Allow me to produce character where you keep focusing so much on your image.
Okay, but I was thinking.
Your thoughts are not my thoughts.
Okay, but if we went another way.
Your ways are not my ways.
Oh, I can't.
You can't what?
I can't be good.
That's your excuse. That's your excuse, is that you can't be good.
It's not an excuse. I can't.
Oh, my child. In the beginning, I said it was good. I made you good. Be good.
Yeah, but you and I both...
What?
Nothing.
No, what is it?
Nothing, okay? You wouldn't understand.
I, God of all the universe, wouldn't understand something one of my children has to say. Try me.
It's just, I let you down so many times, God.
No, my child. You were never holding me up. I hold you up with my victorious, righteous right hand. Never the other way around. In this relationship, I hold you up.
Okay. Chisel away. But just be prepared for what you're going to find in there. Because I know who's inside there. Because I get up every morning and I look at him in the mirror and I hate who I see. Because deep inside there, this little kid who gets up every morning and dresses like an adult. And I go out and I try to do what I'm supposed to do, but I can't, okay? I can't be who everybody else expects me to be. God, I can't even be who I want to be, much less who you created me to be. And so inside is this scared, stupid little kid. But you chisel away. Just be prepared.
You have listened to so many voices for far too long that were not from me. And you have totally bought into the lie, haven't you? You think you're junk, don't you? When you lay your head down at night after you've done the dance to get the hug, you think you're junk. Listen to me. I don't take time to make junk. How can I show you that my love for you stretches as far as the east to the west? How can I show you that my love for you has no end? I know. Reach in your back pocket.
What?
Reach in your back pocket.
Why?
Are you arguing with me? Reach in your back pocket.
Oh, God.
Yes?
I just meant, God, I'll do that right now.
You're just saying my name in vain.
Come on. It's a name. It's a saying.
It's a name above all names. It's more than a saying. It's more than a name. I want to teach you something about my name. Reach in your back pocket.
Oh, my God.
You know what that is?
Yeah, it's a note. I wrote it when I was in college. How did you get this?
Hello?
Oh, yeah.
Go ahead, read it.
I love Angie.
Other side.
Sorry. Dear God, did I hear you right today? Did I hear you say that you love me? Even though you and I both know I messed up so many times. Did I hear you say you want to use me? I feel so useless. If you'll take me and use me, then God, I give you all that I am. Take me. I love you, God.
I love you too. And I love you too much just to leave you where you're at. This salvation that you hold, I don't want it to be some sentimental gush or some head knowledge. I want you to work it out in every detail of your life. And when problems come and chaos happens, don't look at it as a prison, but look at it as a father disciplines his child. A father disciplines the ones he loves.
I know, but it's going to be tough.
Yes, but you bought into the lie thinking everything was going to be easy when you gave everything over to me. There will be trouble in this world, but be of good cheer. I've overcome the world. I want you to do something. I want you to look out there and I want you to say, Tommy is God's original masterpiece.
Tommy is God's.
No, not the way you see yourself or you try so desperately for others to see you, but maybe for the first time in your life, the way I see you, the way I created you.
Tommy is God's original masterpiece.
Yes, you are.
And so are you. God doesn't make junk. You are an original masterpiece.
Even the late questions that came. I will share this video because I think some of you need to hear it again. There's so much in this video. And there's, I could spend another few hours just analyzing. It's well done. I'm speechless. I hope you are too, yes? That answers all the questions, I hope. Trust in God when it doesn't make sense. Understand that trusting in God is not having it your way. It is having it God's way. I think this is the biggest obstacle that we have in our life, is that we always want it our way. There was more questions and for some reason they just disappeared. It's okay. There's only one that I don't think I have answered. The one about the Psalms, there's only one number of Psalms, but the English differs from the Arabic. So Psalm 129 in Arabic is 130 in English or something, or the other way around. I'm not sure which one is ahead. So 130 is in English, I think, is 129 in Arabic, and it's just a difference in the way it's the Psalms are split, but in the end there's 151 Psalms. And that's only in the Agbeya. The trust question we've already answered. Okay? I think the person that put the new question deleted it just in case I answer it and take longer. They wanted us to finish quicker. But there was a question about trusting God, and the last slide I think answers that question. If there's any announcements, I won't take any more questions, kifaya questions.
Just two very quick announcements, guys. There's food at the back, as always. The servants have made a beautiful arrangement of food. And